Good afternoon, Ms. Shereen. How did you know that journalism was the path to take?
It kind of happened by accident. While I was doing my master's in film and television communication, I did my internship. And while I was doing that, I was working on a program that focused on current affairs. And that's where I realized that I enjoyed news and that I had a sense and a smell for news, and that's how the journey started. So it was not so much but a thought through decision as much as it was an accident.
How do you prepare while talking to the experts?
I think preparation is very, very important. In fact, that is the foundation of anything that you do, whether it's journalism or anything that you decide to do in life. And I'm very clear that since I'm a broadcast journalist and I'm on television, and there's limited time that you get to be able to tell your story or do an interview, that it's important that you don't make this a fishing expedition. So you have to go in there with your research, you have to go in there prepared with data so that you can question but also anticipate what the other person may say and then have a response that's ready. So I think that's very important, but at the same time, I don't believe in going in there with like, these are the 10 questions and I have to make sure that I ask all of them in this order, because then you don't have a conversation. Then you're just checking the questions off your checklist. So you have to have the ability to listen, and you have to have the ability to respond to what the other person is saying to you and make it much more of a conversation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shereen, how has being a journalist shaped you as a person?
I think it's taught me so much more than I would have ever learned if I was just in another job. I think I've had the privilege and the absolute honor of meeting with some of the best minds in the world from all walks of life, from politicians to business leaders, to doctors, to authors, researchers. And so the canvas is very, very wide. So you can learn from people who have nothing to do with what I do for my job on a daily basis, and that has been the beauty of it. So it's increased my worldview. It's given me the opportunity to understand different cultures. It's given me the empathy to also be able to understand a different point of view and a different perspective, which I think is very important. To be a good journalist, you have to be able to see things as they are and assimilate all of those different perspectives together and have an open mind. And I think that's actually been very important, just having an open mind and keeping your ears and eyes open and responding to things that come your way. So I think that's been the beauty of being in this business.
Ma'am, covering a lot of stories and news, which have you related the most to?
There are many stories over the last 19 years that I've been doing this that I feel deeply grateful for having been involved with. But I think if you were to ask me, something that I'm very, very passionate about is helping create India's startup ecosystem. So we started a show called Young Turks, which focuses on young entrepreneurs in India and also now globally. And that was 18 years ago, and we've really helped build a platform for young first generation entrepreneurs to be able to tell their stories, share their stories, create a platform of mentors, and really encourage risk taking in young Indians and young middle class Indians who don't come from a family background, who don't have a business family or any of that. So just giving young Indians the ability to see that it is possible, and to have the ambition and the aspiration and to be able to dream and capture that when it finally becomes reality. I think that to me has been one of the most satisfying moments of my career.
Thank you.
How do you think that journalism would evolve over the next 10 years?
I think journalism, the medium has already been disrupted quite significantly. So, traditional news media, newspapers or television channels, now you are getting your news from social media, via Twitter and Facebook and so on and so forth. So I think the distribution end has already seen significant changes, and I think that will continue to see significant changes as technology continues to evolve. But I think, journalism at its heart has to be about telling stories that matter to people, that matter at a particular point in time. You have to be not just observers, but also chroniclers of history, of what's happening around you. So I think the basics of journalism, I don't believe that that should change. You can get more efficient by using technology and so on and so forth, but that's all on the productivity side. How do you make, telling the story more efficient and more productive? But I think putting a story together, gathering the elements that go into making a good story, I think that is something that is timeless, and I hope will remain timeless, and those are principles that we should not compromise with.
Thank you.
Ma'am, in a world where we wake up to news of violence and crime every day, how important do you think it is for the youth to be aware of such events, especially, for example, through tweets that you personally also do release continuously on a daily basis?
I think awareness is critical. I mean, there is one point of view that shut out the bad news. It's not going to make those things go away. It's only going to ensure that there is there's no sort of backlash against that. I think what we saw in America post the horrific shootings in schools, you had the youth coming out and saying that enough is enough. This has to end. You have to, this gun violence and this accessibility of AK-47s to just a regular person without any checks and balances. I mean, this can't go on. So climate change is another issue, for instance. It's actually the young people who are trying to drive change and trying to get the politicians and leaders, world leaders, to say that this is undeniable, you can't ignore it. So I think it's important for us to have these conversations, and it's important for us to have the youth engage in these conversations, because that's the future. And the more the future is invested in making the decisions that will impact them the most, I think that's key. So it has to be participatory democracy, participatory decision making, and I think it's very, very important that the young people are mobilized and have a point of view on all of these issues, because they're going to have to live with the decisions that are taken today, and they'll be the ones who will be impacted the most by it. So I don't believe that shutting out the news or blocking out negative news on crime or violence or climate change is the answer. It's probably going to make matters much worse, because you're not going to be able to talk about solutions. And what we need to do at this point in time is engage in a constructive dialogue and think about solutions.
Ma'am, also you previously mentioned that we are more efficiently working towards using more social media. So our school actually, GIIS Smart Campus, we on a daily basis we learn through smart learning. So how important do you think smart learning at this point of time for journalism also is?
I think, I don't know what smart learning means, but for me, experiential learning is critical. The amount I learned while I was doing my internship was significantly more in value than what my master's program provided me, because the master's program gave me the tools to be able to do this job, but my internship gave me the skills to do this job. And I think that is what is important, whether it's in the classroom, in school or colleges. I think we have to move towards a much more experiential kind of learning, where people understand not just the theory part of it, but how does it come together? How does it work? And that, I believe, is truly the need of the hour. I mean, I wish when we were growing up, we didn't even have access to the internet or to mobile phones or whatever, which all of you are so used to. I mean, you can't even imagine life without that. So in some ways it was good. But I think that now, when you have access to all of this technology, etc., how can you use it to just make learning more fun, more interesting, more relevant to you? Otherwise in a classroom, you're forced to have to learn what 40 other people may have no interest in learning. So while you have to go through the school curriculum, is there a way of you being able to augment what you're passionate about? I mean, if you're kicked about history and that's your thing, can you find ways of augmenting what you're learning in class outside of the classroom as well? So really develop the individual passion and aspiration, and it doesn't have to wait till college. It should really be part of school, middle school and high school, because that really is the foundation to my mind.
Thank you, ma'am.
Miss Shereen, what were the biggest mistakes you've committed on your journey to getting where you are today?
Okay, I think the single biggest mistake I would think was just fear. Was the fear of, if I do this, will it be good enough, or will I be judged, or I think that was the thing that I just feel like if I had to go back and change one thing, that is certainly the one thing that I would change, is not to have to worry about external validation and what someone else will say or think, because someone else will always say or think things about what you do or you don't do anyway. So get rid of that baggage and really find what you're passionate about and just go out there and do it. I think that's probably, I think, one of the mistakes that I made that I would like to change.
Okay, so if you had to leave a few guiding principles as a legacy for the next generation, what would they be?
I think what's really critical is you have to be a good human being. I mean, that really, I truly believe that is the start of doing anything in life. And what I mean by being a good human being is that you have to have empathy. You have to believe in a fair world. You have to believe in a just world. And that should dictate your actions. So tomorrow you could be working as a journalist, or you could be working as a CEO or whatever. These are the things that I believe are important in guiding the decisions that you make. They should come from a place of wanting to see a fairer world, a more just world, and which is why I think that value system, to my mind, is critical. I think have a sense of ownership, and I get the millennial sort of thing of wanting to try different things and so on and so forth, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing one thing at one point in time, then give it your heart, give it your soul. Don't have an indifferent attitude that, well, this is my part of the responsibility, the rest of it is not mine, and who knows, who cares, whatever. I think that's critical, and that would be something that I would encourage all of you to think about. And thirdly, I just think that we often overlook the value of good teamwork, and I think creating a culture where teams work with a spirit of collaboration is super important, especially in the world of journalism, especially broadcast journalism. It's not a place for divas or lone rangers or whatever. You require your camera team, your sound person, your light person. All of you have to work together to ensure that the story comes out right. You might have a great story, but if you don't direct your camera person that this is what I want you to do with the shot, or the sound person doesn't make sure that the audio is correct or the lighting is off, that story won't work. So it's very important that all of you come together as one unit, as one team, and work towards the common purpose. So I would think that those are the three things that I believe are necessary in any walk of life, whether journalism or outside of that, and that should, to my mind, be the foundations of building a successful, long-lasting career.
Thank you, ma'am.
What was the best experience you had during your entire career?
There have been many best experiences, but I think, I don't know,
The one experience that you remember.
I would say it was probably my interview with Bill Gates, because I was fairly young then, and it was obviously a very intimidating experience because it was this sort of big hall with a lot of CEOs, and I was supposed to be in conversation with Bill Gates, and I'd never met him before, and then I was, the fear factor, and I was like, what if I do this wrong, or what if I don't ask the right questions, or what if I get nervous, and so on and so forth. But it went off really well, and I would say that perhaps was the starting point of a lot of other significant interviews that came my way, including the likes of Warren Buffett and Sheryl Sandberg, and so on and so forth during the course of my career. But I would think that one interview gave me the sense of confidence that has then sort of helped me deal with everything else that's happened. But it gave me a sense of, if I could handle Bill Gates, I can manage pretty much anybody else as well. So that confidence was good.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
For more videos, like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the link below.